Hey, I'm Dark Knot, hope you all are doing well. In this video, I'll be talking about the best Arataki Itto Team Comps. I'll be going over the two popular teams, then going over potential replacements and their pros and cons, and help you build a team for Itto yourself with the characters that you have. We also hit 1,000 subscribers recently, so thank you everyone for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. Moving on, the first team is Itto, Gorou, Zhongli, and Bennett. Gorou gives a lot of defense to Itto and Geo damage bonus, and at C6 also gives Geo crit damage to the team. Overall, a really good support for Itto. Zhongli shreds resistance, gives a shield with 100% uptime, which in turn allows you to have a 100% uptime on Geo resonance. His pillar does Geo damage and resonates with other Geo structures, doing more tick damage and generating energy, and his burst does a lot of damage and petrifies enemies. Bennett gives an attack buff and healing and cleanses, and yes, Itto scales with attack. It's just that his burst converts his defense to attack. All of his attacks still scale with attack, except this passive that buffs his charge attack based entirely on defense. The second team is a full 4 Geo team: Itto, Gorou, Zhongli, and Albedo. Gorou and Zhongli do much of the same as I talked about a minute ago. Albedo does off-field damage, generates energy, and scales with defense, so he also benefits from Gorou's defense buffs and also puts down a Geo structure that resonates with Zhongli pillar, and Zhongli pillar procs also proc Albedo's skill. The downside of this team is unless you have a C6 Zhongli or a C4 Gorou, you have no healing at all, which is usually fine in full Geo teams, but the current abyss is Corrosion Abyss because of the Rift Hounds that ignores shields, so you might have some issues. If that goes away, this team should work fine without healing. Having a 4 Geo team also means you have very little energy issues, or if any at all, because you're generating a lot of Geo particles. Now let me go through some replacements. Gorou is amazing for Itto, but Itto is not completely unusable without him. Itto at higher talents converts 100% off defense to attack, which means Gorou's defense buff is essentially a attack buff. And this means if you don't have him, he can be replaced by another attack buffer like Bennett or Sarah. Bennett also providing healing at the same time. You can also use Mona as her burst amplifies damage. In order to proc Geo resonance, you need to be protected by a shield. Zhongli here being the ideal candidate who has 100% shield uptime, which in turn gives you a 100% uptime on Geo resonance. The replacement should be characters that can maintain a shield for as long as possible. Noelle being Geo and a shielder is an option, but her shield uptime is not that high, and using her burst to heal or do damage would extend your rotation by a lot and is generally not worth using in this team with Itto unless you have no options. Diona is a great option as she has a high shield uptime and healing, and can also be a battery with Favorius bow. If you have neither options but are using Gorou, you can use another character that can consistently apply an element to the enemies off field to generate crystallized shields instead, as Gorou burst does suck up the generated crystallized shields. Some other Geo candidates for double, triple, or full Geo team setups are Geo main character, who has very high multipliers and does decently high damage, but more importantly gives 10% crit rate to characters within the AoE of their burst, which is very valuable. They're also a great Geo battery because of their short cooldowns on their skills. Ningguang also works as a sub DPS, and passing through her Jade Screen also increases Geo damage, and Jade Screen is a pretty good battery, especially at C2, which resets your skill cooldown if your Jade Screen is destroyed. Not to mention Jade Screen itself does a lot of damage, and it has a very high multiplier. Some other characters that can be used are Chongyun at C2, which reduces elemental burst and skill cooldown, which allows you more uptime on Itto burst and more Ushi nukes. Rosaria can be used if you need the crit rate transfer, and also someone who provides constant cryo application of field for generating crystallized shields. A quick mention of anima characters: you cannot shred Geo resistance with 4 Viridescent, and you also cannot swirl Geo either. So their only use in a Geo team is for crowd control. So if you need that desperately, use them. Otherwise, just don't. Geo teams are very rigid in the sense that there's very few characters that synergize in a Geo team and increase Geo damage. So if you don't have a lot of these characters that I talked about and are missing a slot in your Geo team and don't know who to fill in, you can always just add a sub DPS into the team, like Xingqiu, Xiangling, Fischl, Beidou, etc. While they don't have any synergy with Geo, it's still more damage output from your team if you don't have any other options. And that is how you build a Arataki Itto team. If you found this helpful, consider leaving a like. If you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to sub to the channel. I would really appreciate it. And if you have any questions or corrections, you can leave them down below in the comments. And if you're still wishing for Itto, I wish you good luck, and thanks for watching. Have a good one.